Calvin Matthew cleared PMP today. And Calvin, let me tell you what a day we had today. More than eight or I guess nine students have reached me out, just like you reached, that they have cleared PMP today. And I have to say, this really made my day. Tomorrow, we are going to start our batch program, and I have that energy that you guys have given me today. To you can see, I'm so pumped right now to go and to execute. So first of all, congratulations for clearing PMP with all above target, and thank you for giving me this good news for making my day. So Calvin, this is your journey. The purpose of this journey is to share what you have learned, how you did it, all those things. Please share it in a way you like it. It's your journey. Please go ahead.
Okay. Uh, Thank you. First of all, Amir sir, I reached out to you a few months back just asking you about the suggestions for mocks, and you were gave me the suggestions for Workday and Tradeb and all. So, but then I purchased on Udemy your course and your mocks
Ah,
also.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So, and I started my PMP journey sometime back. I gave the exam before today. I gave the exam in 20 January of 2020, just before the COVID started. I had given that time, and the examination was much more difficult and also different type of questions that time.
Mm-hmm.
So the issue I was, and then after that, COVID started, and then maybe I was demotivated for some time. I was busy with other things. But then ever since I came to Paris, I've been wanting to take up the PMP again, especially after they changed the syllabus. So long story cut short, I again started. I got the Rita Mulcahy book. I read that, and then I felt the content was very dry and technical. And even though I have CSM, I have Scrum Master certification. So even though I understood the agile part, it was difficult for me to absorb the predictive part. So then I happened to come across your videos a few months back. That's when I reached out to you, and I found it very interesting. And your coaching system is very helpful. I must say it is. I lot of, even though the book is dry and you get a background, I think the fundamentals are more from your course, because you focus on not the entire text, the content. You focus more on the keywords, the essentials. You focus and you surround your system is surrounding those keywords. So if there are definitions, you create scenarios around those things. So it was very useful. For example, I'll give you an example. uh, when I got a question today about risk agile environment, and of the four options there were two options.
You cannot share the real
No,
question. You
no,
can
no.
share the context. Yeah,
I'll
please.
give you the context only. In the agile question, you mentioned in one of the coaching calls that there is no concept of risk register. You mentioned it specifically in that. I'm quoting you. You said there is no concept of risk
Yeah,
register. You
yeah,
mentioned.
yeah. There is no risk register in
Yeah.
Agile.
So when I saw that question, it was easy for me to eliminate two out of three options from that. So when I eliminated two of the options, and then the third one was also did not make any sense. So the answer was right in front of me. So I there were a lot of these, what do you say, nuances which you get from your system, from your coaching system, which I would say is much more helpful than the book, because Rita Mulcahy is a big book, and even if the PMBOK
Yeah.
I might have.
Brother, this is one of the reason I just wrote my book, and you cleared PMP. So as a complimentary after this journey, just remind me. I'll share you my book that is complete. It is the only 84 pages. This actually forced me to write the book because none of the book currently Rita ninth edition or 8th edition, they used to be excellent, but currently no book, even the pen book 7th edition is not useful. So what you did is the best thing. And secondly, people cannot read book. That's an other important thing.
And even if you read the book, you will forget it after 1 week. That is for sure. So you, and then one by one, there's 300 pages in that book. How many points you're going to write down? You writing down becomes an exercise. Instead of that, if the essentials are taught, it's better. So another one good thing about your course was the elimination technique. And I used the elimination technique during the exam for the, even though I gave the exam in 2020 January, I never used that strike through option in that interface. But this time, because I was going through the coaching calls and I was also doing the mocks, I used the option for strike through. So when I was looking at the question stuff, I was using strike through. So that elimination technique which I found, which you were using in your coaching, I found very useful during the mocks as well as in the examination today. So it was useful.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is a very good thing to know. So let's talk about the exam. You give the exam in home or in center?
I went to the center. I went to the
Okay,
center.
so how did you manage that time?
I took both the breaks, but I did keep in mind that for every 60 questions, you have like around 70 minutes or so. So I did make sure that I did not spend some questions you can finish like in 10-15 seconds itself, but some questions you need to read again and again, and so you take more than a minute. So I was trying to manage that, but I tried to make sure that I did not take more than 2 minutes for one question. But some questions are very straightforward. You read it the first glance and you can answer it. So yeah, I tried to manage time, and I figured it. I did not run out of time. By the end of it, I had still around 5 minutes or something. 5 minutes, which is not much, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think I managed fine. And
Okay,
yeah,
yeah. So let's talk about a little bit more about this thing. So the first 60 question, how much time you took in the first 60 question?
I think I took around 70 minutes. 70 minutes.
The first, and then you took 10 minutes break.
I took 10 minutes break. Yeah.
Okay. Then the next question, how much time you took for the next one?
I did not even take 10 minutes break. Sorry, just maybe 5 minutes because my mind was fresh and I
Yeah,
came back.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that is a different thing. The purpose is like you took a break.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah. I
tell
took a break. Yeah.
Let me tell you an interesting thing that when I took my exam, all of the exams that I have given for PMI, at my time there were no breaks at all.
Yeah.
I always used to take a break. We used to have 200 questions, and I depending upon the exam, I remember in a risk exam it was very difficult for me, so I took 3 to 4 breaks. In PMP exam, I took one break. After 100 question, I took 5 minute break. So that's a very good initiative that they have put it there, that they have started making the breaks. Okay, so guys, if you want to ask any question to Kelvin, you can put in the chat box, and Kelvin is with us for some time, and we will make sure he answer it. Then, what about the second and third? How much time you give that?
Second and third also, again, I was, because when you come back, you see the time remaining. For some strange reason, they did not allow me to take my watch inside. Yeah, they asked
What?
me to remove. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did not question them why, because it way.
Then you have the simple watch, or you had the smart watch, like the standard watch, like this type.
Mine was a digital watch. Maybe that's why.
Ah,
Like
yeah.
Casio watch. Maybe
Yeah,
that's why.
any kind. This is recommended. You can buy maybe $1. Maybe if you want to wear a watch, get a cheap one from a dollar store or something like that. That has no technology in it because that is not allowed. Things like that.
But I don't
So
recall. I don't recall that having that problem before the first time in 2020 when I wrote the exam. But there's something
yeah,
surprising. Yeah.
yeah, many things are changing. Like yesterday, one of my student, he is in Japan. Since the online exam has started, and the online exams have started, and there are many malpractices that are starting. So now PMI is thinking of another thing. They have launched it a pilot in Japan and China. One camera in front, as we have, and one camera on side, so they can see your screen that you are doing it. That's a good thing. So that's a good thing that we are getting in that way. So that's a very good thing. And similarly, every country also other things. So some at some places you need to show your passport. At some places you don't need to show. Things like that do happen. Okay. So what about the third
Yeah.
one?
So yeah, one more thing regarding the time management. Even before I went for the exam today, for the past 1 month almost every day I've been doing around 60 questions, 60 questions,
Okay.
mocks. This is the Andrew Ramdayal's. He had launched one.
Yeah, new simulator. I have had a
So I
good
did, I
feedback
did,
on
I did
it.
that. I did
It's
your
like a,
mocks. I did Tridib.
okay.
So I got used to Tridib is really tough, I must say. And
He's a good friend. I talked to him like a week ago. Tridip, now the exam is a little bit easy. You need to get it little bit easier on that. What was your score in Tridip, Roy?
on Tridib, my score was like 55 something, 55. And
Okay.
your mock, even your mock, I did not score 70. I scored
What
60.
60 is okay.
Yeah.
So how relevant my mocks were comparing to the exam?
Your mocks were closer to the exam. I'll give you an example. Procurement, I used to have weakness in Tradeb's exams. So I spent a lot of time after that studying procurement, all of those different types of contracts and everything. But surprisingly, in the exam today, there were not many technical questions on procurement. They mentioned about procurement, but it's more situational. Like, okay, something has happened. What do you change? How do you direct? But they're not specifying about the TNM contracts or those sort of details. They did not ask. But Tridip's mocks has a lot of importance on those technical terms of different types of contracts, like fixed price or cost reimbursable contracts, those sort of questions, which
Okay.
I found I was weak in.
I highly recommend that anyone who is preparing for exam, he does Wagde Azam mocks. He does Wagde Azam has 6 mocks. He does that. He does Tridib mocks. He does Andy Ramdayal mocks or TIA. They are good mocks. Yasin has a good mock. Then if they want to do, I never recommend my mocks. Many people have said, why don't you? So I don't want to say buy my mock. I don't want to make this as a selling call. That's why I never say. Even when you ask, I never ask you to buy the
Yes, I
same thing.
remember. You did
Yeah,
not recommend yours, but then I
never.
was already following your YouTube, so
Yeah.
I felt that impulse to I should buy your mock. Yeah.
Because when I sell. When I give to the community, I give to the community. For example, my batch is starting tomorrow, and I directly made a video. The batch is starting, join now, and things like that. But when I get in the lesson learned, I don't believe I should start selling. That's not fair in my point of view. Okay, so moving forward, Edward has a exam, I guess, on 21st. Edward, you had exam on 21st now. Any tough question? How was the question? What did you do one day prior to? I'll come to that question regarding that second and third. So 70-minute first part. How much second and how much third?
Around 1 hour, 1 hour, and then
One.
again the third part again 70 minutes. So
Again
altogether,
7.
I might have taken around 200 minutes, 210 minutes, something. I remember having 5 minutes remaining, and I had marked a few reviews in the third session. I had marked review a few questions, so I had time to go and look at that, and I just had still few minutes to spare. Yeah,
Okay, so let's talk about how was the question structured. Like, were they difficult, easy? How much the difficult? Now, let's compare it with the 3D mocks. How, if you compare, because in my opinion, 3D mocks are the most difficult mocks in the market. So, how difficult it was comparable to that?
it was actually surprisingly. See, now I just because I finished today, I don't want to say that I was surprisingly easy. I don't want to make it sound like I found it the exam easy. I was I found the questions a little bit more sensible because Tradup's questions, the wordings can be a little tricky, whereas this was a little bit more to the point. So you understand what they're trying to say. And another thing want to emphasize is that the questions are much more situational. you will never get same type of questions as the other students have told you also. So the only thing, the main thing you need to understand is how would the project manager react? What is his mindset? So and they give different scenarios and what would the ideal project manager do? And there were many questions surrounding servant leadership. So servant leadership or as a mentor or as a so those sort of things they did mention. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
but
Okay. Okay. So how many drags and drop did you have?
I had one question, drag and drop.
How many questions with multiple answers?
I had around 3 or 4 questions. I remember there were 3 questions with choose two, and there was one
Hmm?
question with choose three, or there might have been two. No, no, yeah, I think there was two of each. Two
Okay.
questions with two choices, and 2 questions with 3 choices. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I think I might have got one wrong because again by elimination you try to choose what is the closest you feel, but you don't know what is the end result. But I think from the
You
multiple
never,
choices.
you never know. You never
Yeah.
know.
But on multiple choices, those questions, I think 3 out of 4 I got. One I was not sure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what was the most topic asked? So team, stakeholder communication, what was most asked in those topics?
Uh, stakeholders was there. Then team, when they're talking about team, they're talking about if there is one, they might say for I'm not giving the question away. I'm just saying one resource might is new to the project and he is lagging behind. So how do you ensure that the velocity is back on track? That is the question. And then they'll give certain options. So the main thing is they will say make the development team work among themselves because we're talking about what to say the empower the team, right? That is what we're talking about. Let the team uh, discuss among themselves and let the team itself provide coaching where there is no option to let the team coach. That's when we should be coaching or we should be providing or arranging for training. Even questions regarding okay the stakeholders are new to agile, so how do you arrange that? So then we don't this say choose give a detailed method training or just give overall common knowledge training for agile. So obviously it will be common knowledge training for the agile. So most of the questions I must say that Andrew Ramdale, his questions were good and your questions were also closer to that. And
And
I
and
yeah,
you were also attending Andy Ramdal coaching call.
coaching call, no, only the YouTube what he has been.
That I call them coaching call. So that is
Yes,
my
yes,
word. Yeah,
yeah.
those
I,
live
I
questions. Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen a few of those, but those are again, he's got so many, and I didn't have the time to look at all that. And in each coaching call, he only gives out like 10, he answers like 10 questions. So I did not focus too much on that. But then his websites, it's got 6 mocks of 60 questions
66,
each.
66 mocks. So do you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that money is worth it? I guess it is $29, something like that.
It is, yeah, $29. It was because when he was advertising about the website, he said that as per his feedback from his students, it is closest to what. So i have
Okay.
I have done prepcast in the past for the previous version, and in spite of this.
Prepcast, you did the right thing. Prepcast as of today is not relevant to the real exam. So okay, so let's talk a little bit about more things. So stakeholder communication, it was a relevant topic. So we had another question, and it's an interesting question, especially in your perspective. You have given in exam in the old perspective. What is your view on the current subject matter? Is the current syllabus better or was the previous? So first, please you answer. What do you think? Is the current syllabus better or the previous one was better according to the real world practices?
When you're saying previous, you mean the earlier exam format.
2020.
See, the earlier exam format, the challenge was ITTOs, which was you had in Hindi you say ratamar. I don't know what you say, mug up.
Cramming or mug cramming
Yeah,
or
yeah.
mug.
There are like around. I can't remember the. There's so many. Uh,
132 tool. I remember
yeah,
132 tools and technique. That's my job to remember. 49 process, 5, 49 process group, 5 process, 10 knowledge area, 132 tools and technique.
Yeah. So like in imposition, I used to write down on piece of paper, trying to remember that. But then after a few weeks, you forget everything. So that was totally, that is not relevant anymore in the current exam. And honestly, it isn't. Nowadays, if you need to refer anything, you can always go back and check online, and everybody has access to.
Yeah. I would say the same thing. So I am more in love with the current PMP exam because you see, I remember, I don't know if it was a joke or reality. Someone went to Einstein and asked his number. He went there and fetched his diary and tell that this is my number. And people were amazed. You are the genius of the world, and you don't remember your number. And he said that the things that are not useful, why you should keep those things in your mind. So what was happening in the previous exam, people were mugging up trying to memorize everything, trying to go through those things that is not relevant in the real world. Even if you are working in a predictive environment, like you are working in a hydropower project or a construction project, no one expect that you remember the what is the tensile strength of steel and things like that. There are charts available everywhere. Even in the QA lab, there is chart available and things like that.
Yeah.
But what is most important is how you, as a project manager, how you manage people, how you manage human. And this exam is more towards people oriented,
Yeah.
human oriented. And in my perspective, this exam is more relevant to the current requirements and it will be more relevant to the upcoming decade, because what PMI thinks is how to prepare you a better project manager for the upcoming decade, not 1 year, not 5 years. We need to have a long term vision. So in my personal opinion, Calvin and Zero Cool, I guess you put the image of a despicable me villain. I am not sure if I'm right. So I guess this is a better example. Please
No,
go ahead.
one more thing, just along with that, in the previous version, there were so many questions on earned value management, for which you needed to remember the formulas also. There were like
Yeah.
easily like 10, 15 formulas or more than 10 formulas. So yeah, but in this, surprisingly, there was no calculations. There was just common sense questions about cost variance, and they just said the CPI is negative and those sort of things. That's it. But there was no calculation questions. So
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing what you just said. No critical path and things like that. Okay, so any compliance question in your exam?
there were compliance questions. Yes, there were compliance questions, and there were at least, I think, if I remember, there were at least 4 or 5 questions. And they are saying with respect to the regulators, something is changing. So what should you do and all those things. So obviously, if it is mandatory, then you have to do it. Otherwise, if the project is already halfway through, then one of the options might be check with your legal department, stuff like that, on how to proceed.
Okay.
So, or yeah. So anyway, there were compliance questions, and obviously the as per your cheat sheet for project manager, servant leader, the ideal project manager mindset, you said that compliance is mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
So regulations, following regulations is mandatory. So always have, I kept that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, any option where they're talking about circumventing the compliance requirement, I eliminate it, because that is a basic minimum that has to be followed. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, my friend, thank you very much for the good time. Your final advice to PMP aspirants.
Yeah, I would just say that, get used to, because if you're trying to remember the questions and go to exams, there's no use. The root cause analysis, I did little bit, not so much. I did little bit, which you
Okay.
proposed. And then also I've went through the questions just to get a feel of what the project manager will do. It's all
Mm.
about the mindset, because the questions can come in different shapes and sizes. Read the questions and read slowly. Sometimes some questions I used to read, some questions I read fast and then I had to read it again. So just be patient, get the practice of doing 60 questions in 1 hour, get the practice for that. That is another one suggestion I would give. You have much more time in the exam, but as a practice routine, just get used to 60 questions in 60 minutes as a average. And yeah, just get used to the mindset. And of course, your coaching system is, don't rely on books, because I can show you the books over here. It's this thick books, and I don't remember anything from that. Yeah.
Tomorrow actually I have a batch, so I am going through everything that is available in the PMI market, fifth edition, sixth edition, and this one seventh edition. And I go to the books, so I make it easy for you to watch the videos and get learn from here
So
and become a better
the
PM.
Rita book is on the bed. I don't take it, but sorry, it's not 300 pages. It's almost 600 pages. I just remembered. I read it like more than a month back. So anyway, reading the books is okay if you have the time, but much more important, especially with your coaching system, focus on the small details. The small details, like I mentioned in the beginning, like how you. I'm quoting you. You said there is no concept of risk register in agile. Like that, there's so many nuances which you highlight in your coaching system, which will be useful for the exam. So that is a plus. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Just one thing I would like to add here. Each one teach one. Maybe the way I helped you, you help other people. You help them to become certified PMP. With that, now is the time for Christmas. You are in Paris. I cannot say more. Enjoy in the lovely Paris and best of luck your future endeavors. Bye bye.
Thank you.